Welcome to this episode of The Screen Bytes, a podcast about video games, technology, TV, and movies. In this episode, we talk about the first 3 episodes of the Star Wars Acolyte.
But the real reason we wanted to talk today was about Star Wars Acolyte. I nearly forgot. Acolyte. Star Wars The Acolyte. So you managed. The first episode is 2 episodes in one. So it's like the old school days where they had part 1, part 2. Remember, like you had some like shows like Star Trek or Stargate, and they used to have like a season premiere, and it used to be 2 episodes. It's very rarely you see a series that does that.
By the time I came to it, there was 3 episodes out, so I just watched them all in one go.
Well, when they first released it, it was like, there was 2. But the thing is, like TV these days, it kind of you see it's not like one-off story. It basically each story just follows up from the previous story. So yeah, it's kind of cool though. Like they did release it and say,
they're dropping 2 episodes so that you can
get a good flavour of it.
Basically, well. Yeah, and to be honest, a lot of critics these days are saying it takes like 2, maybe 3 episodes to decide whether you like a TV series or not. So if you have just 1 episode drop, then you might like it. But if you've got 2 episodes and you can kind of watch them back to back, it's easier to decide whether or not you like it.
It's funny though, because like we recently reviewed Fallout, and Fallout, well, Amazon Prime just released all the episodes day 1. Someone could have just gone to the last episode, watched the last episode and then tried to spoil it for people, I suppose. But I suppose, like, the way Disney Plus are probably thinking about it is, like, if they release it one by one, say if someone's paying it monthly, I don't know how many episodes there are might be 8 episodes, and say...
There's going to be 8 episodes, and the last one's going to be released, I think, on the 16th of July, something like that.
Really? So not... Yeah.
So you're thinking maybe... Well, that's 6 weeks. If you say the 2 dropped at 1 and 2 dropped at once, so that's 7 weeks of weekly releases.
Yeah.
So that's at least 2 months, but for most people, you might be looking at 3 cycles. I mean, we already had Disney Plus. I can't remember why, but I picked it up recently.
So what did you think to the show itself? Like, my honest opinion was there is a large amount of criticism towards Star Wars at the minute in terms of the direction it's kind of going, and the actual quality of the brand itself is just gone, to most people's eyes, down the drain. Did it kind of affect, like, because I remember you said, "Oh, I'm going to watch this." You messaged me saying, "I'm going to watch this," and I said, "Well, don't bother." Oh, and don't look up online.
Well, I'd already seen it.
Yeah.
I'd already seen it when I texted you.
Right.
To be honest, I've seen some low scores online, but the only person I've heard negative stuff from is you.
Really? Well, I think the first 2 episodes...
I've not watched any review shows or anything. I just, when I went to IMDb, it just listed the ratings. Like, I've not gone and read a review, watched a review. So I haven't heard anything bad about the show, but I've not gone out looking for anything bad about the show. So my question for you is, do you have an opinion about the show, or do you have an influenced opinion about the show, influenced by what everyone else is saying about the larger scheme of Star Wars? Like, can you enjoy this show, or are you just thinking in the back of your head, "Oh, this is really shit now"?
Well...
And that's kind of like maybe taking what is let's imagine, right? This isn't the best show that they've ever made. This is like a mediocre show, but perfectly enjoyable.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it doesn't stack up to A New Hope, so I kind of like, it's a bit shit, innit?
Well, it's not really like that until the 3rd episode. The first 2 episodes, I was like, yes, this is not great, but it's watchable, and I was enjoying myself, like.
But what about it wasn't great?
Well, in particular, the 3rd episode. The 3rd episode, I think it's kind of hard to say. Like, it's very obvious, driven in a certain direction in which it's not really... I don't know. Like, the main issue for me, the 3rd episode really definitely showed that, was the actual acting itself and the story, where some of it just didn't make any sense. And I looked online... okay, I am jumping ahead a bit, but most of those women died because of the fire, supposedly. I found that very hard to believe, that all those women they just they're all laying there dead because of a fire, and none of them managed to get out. And I think to myself, how is that even possible? How did they all die? The story just doesn't. It starts full.
But I don't think they died of a fire.
Exactly. I think there's something else behind that. It must be. And if they're saying, yeah, no, they actually died because of a fire, I think that's just very, like, it just doesn't make any sense.
When they showed them dead, they didn't look like they had burnt to death.
Exactly.
So they didn't die from the fire. They died because May, the bad girl, she was angry and she went in and she killed them. She's incredibly strong with the Force, or whatever they want to call it. They still called it the Force, didn't they? She's incredibly strong with the Force. She probably, with her emotions, overcame them and managed to kill them.
I think the other big issue in which I kind of felt, and I think a lot of people online feel as well, it's quite a sensitive subject in terms of the actual subject of men, in especially in the third episode, of men being the ones in like violation. The question is asked, where's the father for these children? And they basically give a blank face, like, men, because they don't know how. They're not allowed to breed children, apparently. There's these women as well, and they're all women. So it's like this hidden message inside the show where it's trying to tell you, like, women are not allowed to have babies by themselves. Like, lesbian couples, gay couples are not allowed to have children. And they are taken away by an outside source because they're portraying, like, the Jedi as this outside source, and they are telling the children, don't give the right answers, give, like, stupid answers, and then you can stay with us. So they're trying to portray...
That's totally not how I saw the whole situation.
Okay, well, you go ahead then, because I think a lot of people saw it like that, and I definitely saw it like that.
So the way I saw it is that the children don't have a father. There was no male involved at all. And the way that they came to being was through the Force. In some way, they are children of the Force.
Yes, but they didn't actually say that. They're keeping it secret.
No, they haven't. Something was said to the Coven leader about, do you want them to find out exactly how they came to be? Which says to me that it's something that isn't normal. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be cloning. I mean, maybe it could be cloning. We've had cloning in the past, and obviously they are basically identical twins. So maybe they're clones, but I mean, we're 100 years before the Clone Wars, or even more than 100 years before the Clone Wars, so I'm not sure if it would be cloning. But I think there's something there. I'm not sure how that is negative towards LGBT, lesbian,
it's not.
Gay couples.
It's not.
Lesbian parentage.
It's not.
But I also don't think the Jedi were taking the children away because of who they were with. I presumed that the Jedi felt that there was some gifted children in the ways of the Force, and that they wanted to see if they were able to become Jedi. Because obviously the way the Force works in the universe is that everything is connected. So when Alderaan was destroyed and Obi-Wan felt it in the Force, he felt it happen, so he can feel those things. So there'll be Jedi who can sense when a child is born who is connected with the Force, or someone who learns the way of the Force and starts to use it and grow in its power. So they came not to kidnap the children or take them away from the mother, but to test them and see if they are right to be trained to become a Jedi. There are other questionable motives about the Jedi.
The narrative is, if they're going to ask the questions, it's a high chance they're going to take them away.
Yes.
And that's what the narrative is. It's like, these bad Jedi...
Like I said, there's definitely something questionable about the Jedi and what they are doing. They definitely have a moral righteousness, an air of righteousness about them that maybe that they put upon themselves. They see themselves as the good guys, and everything that they do is for the good, where in actual fact what they are doing isn't good. So I'm not saying the Jedi in this situation are entirely blameless, but I'm not sure that they were coming in with that exact mindset.
Well, I just thought to myself, why are we delving into these kind of stories and situations, like an all women group who have had children, and then reluctantly their children are one of them's going to be taken away. It just
there's a few. There's actually. So when I was watching episode 3, there was 2 things that were going through my mind, which made me very sympathetic to everyone but the Jedi. So one of my sympathetic thoughts was, why are these people not allowed to use the Force? Why is the Force only to be reserved by the Jedi?
Well, there you go. It's a hidden message inside. Do you not think that?
I thought the message was against the Jedi.
Yeah,
so it's saying to the audience, yeah, but I don't see why that's a bad thing.
I do.
It's saying to the audience, look, the Jedi have always had this power. The Jedi are trying to control the Force, but why should the Jedi get to control the Force, and why should they get to decide who can and can't use the Force? Obviously, in the Jedi's mind, they want to prevent people like Darth Vader. I mean, I know this is before all of that, but they want to stop people from using the Force in a bad way. But just because we've got these people, they call themselves witches, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad people, evil people or whatever. It just means that they are women with some kind of power in this universe. We don't know that they're evil. We don't know that they're good, but we don't know that they're evil. We just know that they are gifted with a power that exists within this storytelling universe. So for me, I'm seeing 2 things. One is, why is the Jedi gatekeeping the Force, and should we maybe think about how that is a bad idea, and how actually what the Jedi do in gatekeeping the Force actually actively pushes people away. If the Jedi didn't exist, if the Jedi Order hadn't existed, Anakin may have never become Darth Vader. He may have grown in the Force naturally. He may have noticed that he was gifted in these ways and just used it in his day-to-day life. Like instead of hiring a tractor, he just lifts up the bales of hay in the, I think even at the end of the second sequel, at the end of episode 8, there's like a child who uses the Force to pick up a broomstick, and I don't think that ever gets addressed in the next film because it's a different director. But it's just one of these things, like there's people dotted around this universe who've got some low-level ability within the Force, and they're doing no harm to anyone. The Jedi in A Phantom Menace, the Jedi came in and they took a child from its own home planet, trained it to be the best Jedi fighter and a pilot in the universe, and then he became one of the biggest baddies ever. So the Jedi Order, they're not actually all that good. They mean well, but they get it wrong all the time. So why should they be the leading authority on who can and can't use the Force? So that's one story that I saw. The other story that I saw is of, and I think the Coven Mother, she reluctantly, she said the right things to Osha. So obviously the main characters are Osha and May. Osha is the quote unquote good twin and May is the bad twin. And May really, she's really good with the Force. She's super good. She's super gifted. She really wants to do the Ascension ritual. She wants to become a witch like her mothers and her, all of her family around her. She's like super into it. And you can see the entire time her face was beaming with joy and happiness. She really wanted to do this. And that's great. Like, it's 2024. We're talking about things like consent for anything. Don't force people into doing things that they don't want to do. So on the flip side of May, you've got Osha, who isn't as gifted in the Force, but she can do a little bit, and she might need a bit more teaching, training, practice, but she might get there eventually. I mean, they're only 8 or something like that. They're incredibly young at this point. But she doesn't want to be stuck where they are. She doesn't want to be the only child or the only children. She doesn't want to spend her whole life tied to her sister. Like, she loves her family, she loves her sister, but she also has a streak of shyness, but also a streak of independence in her. She wants to do other stuff. So when the Jedi come, she is intrigued. And actually, that she's found something that she wants to do. And as much as it pained her mother turned around and said, look, if this is the destiny that you want to pluck on, then pluck the thread. And yes, it's sad. It's going to break up the family, I guess, because of the way the Jedi works. But originally, they were trying to force her down a path that she didn't want to do. And that is just as bad as what the Jedi were doing. Yeah. So it's like, can you see how there's like a mirror and a reflection going on? So each of the twin has a positive and a negative, and the positive for one of the twins is the negative of the other, and the negative of one twin is the positive of the other. So they've got like a cross mirror going on with the two twins, the Jedi, and the mother. So like there's good, there's bad, there's good. And then it's not perfectly balanced, as all things should be. May has insane emotion in her, and I think that's how she had the power to overcome everyone. Not because she was powerful with the Force, but because she was powerful with emotion through the Force, if that makes sense. And that's how she managed to potentially just defeat all of the mothers, and just didn't even do it, in a sense, she didn't really do it purposefully. She just did it in anger and revenge and all of these sorts of things. So that's how I can see how all of these story elements could have happened in a more positive vibe than you were potentially suggesting.
I seem to think that I remember in episode 2, one of the Jedi who was floating in the air, and he's been floating in the air for the last 15 years or something, 10 years.
Yeah, ever since that day, pretty much.
Yeah. And his last thing was, "I'm really sorry." To May, I believe. It's May.
Yeah, he says, "I'm really sorry. We thought we were doing the right thing."
So I question in regards of, there's no way that fire would have killed all those, what is it, the mothers? What are they called?
They're not all mothers, just
the witches.
The witches. The Coven of Witches.
The Coven of Witches.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, in general, like...
But he's saying that in response to not the fact that they came to test the children, but they came to test the children, which then resulted in her getting really angry and killing everyone. They're not directly responsible for what happened, but they certainly caused it.
Yeah.
Like, there is a slight distinction there. Like, May, from her point of view, the Jedi came down and they killed everyone. But the reality was, the Jedi came down, asked some questions, May got upset, killed everyone.
I still think, though, like, watching the latest 3 episodes... I just this is the same for Obi-Wan as well, though. I don't know if you've ever watched the Obi-Wan series.
I haven't got there yet.
So Obi-Wan, in my opinion, was okay. You know, wasn't amazing, but it was good. But Obi-Wan had kind of like lower, like, of course it's a TV show, but it kind of had like low budget. You can tell it's still quite, and you're thinking like, even for a TV show, and you've got Ewan McGregor, this is quite low budget. Like the effects and stuff. And in this show, you can see it as well. You just feel like there's some cheapness to this show. I don't know what it is. It just doesn't... There's no click. I don't know if you think that as well. Like, you watch some of the scenery or the background and the uniform people are wearing. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like a modern... Like, it just doesn't...
I haven't had that at all.
Really? I just look at it and think it all feels a bit cheap. The acting is very wooden.
It's no The Mandalorian in terms of sets, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
So, like,
but I would say that.
Take episode 2, right, where we spend the vast majority of the episode in that little market square.
Yeah.
It's quite a small set. Yeah. Essentially, you're looking at a soundstage. It's not. I don't think that's an outdoors place. That's a inside soundstage.
Yeah.
And they've not built the whole thing. You're just looking at 2 or 3 angles that are set up perfectly for the camera to capture what they need to, but nothing more. But, I mean, that's fine. Like, we are, like you say, we're talking about a TV show.
Yeah, and there's no action. There's not been any action.
So? What
do you mean?
I mean, there has been some action.
Not really. Like, there's been one...
Not every TV show has to follow the same formula. So we had the bar fight, which started everything. Then we had the, the prison ship escape. Then we had the attempted thing on Torbion. Like, why does everything have to be action? This is a story.
Star Wars.
It's not the same story as Obi-Wan.
And what do you think to the story?
But there is some action, but it's not.
What do you think to the story? Are you really that invested in 2 young girls, like 2 teenagers?
Yeah.
Really? Would you rather not see that Asian guy just go out and do missions for the Jedi.
No, because that's what Obi-Wan is. You know, you got that TV show already. This is a different story.
I'll give it one thing. I'll give the show one thing.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it for years and years and years. Set a story 1,000 years before Anakin and all that. Because I think this is set like 1,000 years.
100 years before the
Is it 100? Just 100 years?
Clone Wars or something. Yeah, it puts it in prime time to still have technology like the receivers, but they can't refer to future characters. So, which is what you don't want, because you don't want them to always bring in Luke Skywalker or whatever. So
yeah,
I've got to say, like, I know we're not going episode by episode on this TV show.
No.
In episode 2, the Jedi, they're so bumbling.
That's the thing. Why is there so many? Like, they got too many characters as well. You got too many Jedi.
But they've all. I don't think you haven't got too many. There's like
you have. You got a Squid guy. You got Squid guys. The Squid guy, and you've got his Padawan apprentice, and then
Squid guy,
Squid guy, the Korean guy, Jedi guy, main Jedi guy.
When you say Squid guy, do you mean the guy from Squid Game?
Yeah.
Right, that means nothing to me. I was thinking of a squid.
Nah, well, the audience will know.
Well, this is Star Wars. There are, there are sentient creatures other than humans. So when you say squid, I'm thinking a squid.
No. I was trying to say Squid Game. Guy, my bad.
Right, so you got 4 Jedi, right? Then you got two girls.
Isn't it? Oh yeah, sorry. There is 4. There's 4 Jedi.
Right.
They're all in one mission.
There's 4 Jedi.
It's ridiculous. Just have 2. Why do they have to? And they're all competing for lines to say. And it comes.
Where are you getting all this from?
They are. It's just
they're not competing for lines. They barely say anything. They say like 2 lines each. The Jedi are very reserved. They don't just talk.
Exactly. So there's not enough lines to go around. So they're just like, oh, this person's actually said something.
I'm not sure how that's competing, but
what? There's too many characters. That's what I'm trying to say. There's too many characters.
I'm not sure. I don't think there is.
And then, really?
No.
I think there is. Like keep across.
Yes, there's a lot of characters, but we're not going to be. They're not all following us for all 8 episodes. So there's 4 Jedi, but 2 of them are already dead. Right? We met the entire Covenant of Witches. The entire Covenant of Witches are dead. Do you see what I mean? It's like there's going to be like a core 6 or 7 characters that are going to be in every episode. So you've got Squid Guy, his 2 people on his ship, Osha.
No, you're calling him Squid Guy.
May, yes.
Yeah.
And Quixer, the guy who made that poison. So I'm at 6 there, and then you're going to have that lady back at the Jedi temple, the Jedi main base thing. And that's 8. Those are the 8 characters, and one of those is probably going to be in one more episode, and then he's going to die. So you've got 7 characters.
What about a Wookiee?
But he's going to die in the next episode. Because he's going to die. He's not a permanent character. He's not going to be a permanent character. The only Jedi from the...
How'd you know?
I don't. But the only Jedi from the original 4 who's going to be a permanent character in every single episode is the Squid Guy. Jedi Sol. But even if the Wookiee doesn't get murdered and they get to him in time, he's going to stay on his own planet. He's not going to come back. Like, he's not going to be a fixture for the rest of the series. He'll just be a fleeting character, and he'll have like flashback scenes, or he'll be in the final episode or something, but we're not going to see him in every single episode like we will May, Osha, and Sol. So I think you're blowing.
That's the thing. He's not too bad.
I think you're overblowing there's too many characters. And actually, so the previous episode, we had this entire Coven of Witches with like 30 extra characters for a minute. The next episode, we're on this planet where there's 1 person. So, we're going to have balance in that sense. And when you're talking about like there's not enough, like it's a low budget thing, I think what you're going to find is, do you remember we spoke about the bottle episode where there's less money in one episode and more money in the other? Well, the next episode 4, looks like there's a lot of CGI in it. So maybe the CGI budget came from episode 3 into episode 4. From episode 2 into episode 4, because I think episode 3 had a bit. So, like, it is a TV show. Like, you're not wrong. It's a TV show. They've probably got a budget of a few million per episode. They've got half of that's going to be spent on salaries for cast. So there's not a huge budget for CGI, so they've got to allocate it appropriately. I have no problem with low budget sets. I mean, have you watched Doctor Who? Since 2005 with like David Tennant. They have done incredible things with not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. If you ever watch the behind the scenes on particularly the Matt Smith episodes, the CGI in Doctor Who has been really poor, but their sets, their non-CGI sets, have been phenomenal and they look great. Yeah, they're not perfect. And actually, in episode 3, I was very much snapped out of my immersion when the first scene where they go to the ship to be tested, to do the test, and then Osha goes up to the Wookiee. There's a panning shot, and in that panning shot, there is a water butt. And they've tried to dress it up. They've put some stuff on it to make it more spacey. But that water butt, I mean, there's about 20 of them in this marina because that's what every boater uses to carry water from the water tap to their boat. So it's not perfect, but they're doing stuff, and that's fine. That's just what it's what TV shows do. There's a difference between a TV show and a movie.
So it's got you excited for the next 2 episodes then?
I think I will enjoy them. Yeah, I have no.
Where with me, I'm on a bit of a downer after that episode. I think that was like one of the worst things to come out.
Well, the good thing for you is that this was a flashback episode, not a sort of main thing.
Yeah, that is a good point. It's kind of
that's
one of
just
those
to
things
provide. That's just
like,
to provide us with some backstory as to what actually happened.
I just wish that Squid Games guy, we would just not concentrate on these stupid 2 teenagers. I don't care about, if one of them's bad and going around trying to kill Jedi.
They're not teenagers anymore.
I just want to,
by the way.
Or whatever. I just want.
They're in their mid-20s. Like they are like. What I mean is they're not children. They are actually like fully grown adults at this point.
I was mainly focusing on episode 3 when they were children. Like, I don't want to see that.
But why? Like we got one episode.
I don't want to see flesh.
Just so that we.
I don't want to see any of that. I just want Squid Games guy by himself going around and saying like, I've discovered an ancient architect of the Jedi. This ancient lightsaber. I'm going to find.
But that wasn't his job. That wasn't his job.
Yeah, but I want it to be. He
was teaching Padawans or something. The way of the Force.
But yeah, well, you could do like an Indiana Jones where
they can still do that.
We need you to go out.
That's like so different from what this TV series is. Like, I do get your point, but that's not what this story is.
Yeah, I know it's not. I want a completely different story. I don't want this story.
This story is about the 2 girls.
I don't want the 2 girls. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Don't watch the rest of the episode. And we won't record the 2 extra episodes about it.
I got it. That's what I said to my friend.
That's like watching Star Wars and saying, I want a fucking Star Trek. You didn't get Star Trek, you got Star Wars.
This ain't Star Wars. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is Star Wars.
This ain't Star Wars, is it?
Do you remember back when we were in episode 4 or 5 of our own podcast, and I was watching the sequels, and I was complaining how in the Star Wars films, all we ever see is this high-level galactic empire battle between huge superpowers, and we almost never see civilians in civilian places. Like, we go to bars and we see the types of people who hang out in bars or the people at the spaceport, but we don't actually spend any time with the real civilians in the Star Wars universe. And that's what you see it. You like The Mandalorian. One of the things I was enjoying the most about The Mandalorian was seeing more of the people who actually live in the universe of Star Wars. And the same with this. It's like, okay, yes, they are Jedis again, so we are kind of going a bit above your standard civilian, but we're going back in time. We're seeing what people, how people are living. Like they're kind of trying to hide away from the Jedi, I guess, a little bit because of what the Jedi are doing with their sort of treatment of people with the Force. But then actually, like, before she gets arrested, Osha is a mechanic, a non-droid person who goes outside of spaceships to give, to do repairs on them. Like, she is a normal person living a normal life. Like, this is actually a story that I want to see. Like, I know you don't want to see it, but
I'll give you that. Yeah, I get.
There's other stories for you to see.
I'll give you that. Like after the main films in the franchise, it does get a bit boring, like you say, about having the high galactic battles and stuff. But I just wish they didn't concentrate on a story where we're involving moody young adults. Then let's say,
but now you're bringing in
fight over
anti-female stereotypes when you're calling them like moody teenagers, and that doesn't help the whole, the grand picture.
Well, that's what I think.
But you've got Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan
want
already
that kind
exists.
of story. I don't want flashbacks. I don't want flashbacks of little kids.
So you don't want to know what happened as children?
You've seen this story. We've seen this, and it's like you say though. But we've seen this story. We've seen it with Anakin, like a child taken away from their family, and like you say, it is kind of just rehashing what we've already seen. I want to see something completely new. I want to see a Jedi go and do something like on an event. Well, okay, Obi-Wan went on an adventure, but it's the adventure in which we already knew that he had to go and do, because it has to all fit back in place. I'm talking about an experience for a Jedi in which...
What about Andor? What happened? What's Andor about?
I've only watched like 2 or 3 episodes. I've heard actually good things about that. It's about the guy who's in Rogue One, but you know what's going to happen with that character,
right?
As well, eventually. It's a prequel to Rogue One. It would be nice. Okay, say like The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like the first season was pretty good. He's going off on his little adventures. He's going off to different planets and doing little different things. Why can't we have a Jedi like that where we don't know what's going to happen to him, because he is not Obi-Wan, okay? Because we know what's going to happen to Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is going to eventually become an old man and live in a cave, and he's going to fight off Darth Vader and he's going to get himself killed. Let's concentrate on a character, a Jedi. And to be fair, she is a Jedi who, like you say, that is interesting that she has lost her connection to the Force, and now she is... But that was the weird thing as well, in which I was thinking, no, don't you dare. So she was on the ship.
Yeah.
She was in that cell, and everyone was escaping, and the ship is going down, and she tried to use the Force, and I honestly thought they were going to let her use the Force. And I was like, it does... No, that doesn't work.
No, but do you know what that scene was?
What was it?
We didn't know at this point that May existed. At this point, as far as the audience is concerned, Osha is the person who killed the Jedi. Now, there's small clues here and there. So May has... her hair comes part way down her back, whereas Osha's hair is, strictly cut to the shoulders. So there's small details there that you might pick up, but some people might miss those. This scene was telling you that this is not the same person who fought that Jedi. This person, she did actually, she could use the Force. She did move that pip with the Force, but not enough to bring it to her. So this scene was telling you that she is someone who can use the Force, but someone who is very weak with the Force. And now I think that was a very pivotal scene, and I think you've read that scene completely wrong.
Well, no, because I didn't read it wrong, because if you leave the Order or leave to become a Jedi, I swear they perform some sort of ritual thing on you to block your Force, so you can't use the Force.
Well, maybe they do. Maybe they did in the future. Maybe they didn't at this point. Also, I don't know if you can really remove the Force from someone.
Well, they did it. I know that I'm going a bit...
Well, maybe they did do that to her. But the thing is...
That's in a video game.
Sol, when Sol was talking to the big boss lady, he said that she hasn't used the Force for 6 years, so she's going to be very weak with the Force. There's no way that Osha could have fought with Jedi in Drika or whatever her name was. So he said that she's... Yes, she used to be a Jedi, but she's not. She hasn't trained or anything in 6 years. So it doesn't sound like they took it away from her. Just sounds like she hasn't used it. Right. Anything else you want to say about this great TV show that I'm actually quite enjoying?
Well, yeah, I will keep watching. I will definitely keep watching. But I watched the trailer and I heard everyone saying it's going to be rubbish, and I was like, yeah, it's probably going to be rubbish, but I'll give it a go. But it really has set the bar very low for Star Wars now, and I just think it's just going to get worse and worse, unfortunately. I think the quality of the show is very lackluster. The acting is very poor. To me, it seems like a show that's been made on the cheap.
Right, okay. So you said two.
It's the truth. It might.
Why do you think the acting is really poor?
It just is. It comes across very wooden. Some of the external Jedi people the way it's just,
Well, the Wookiee does, but I mean, you can't blame him.
not the Wookiee. Like that woman and the guy who's meant to be. It just they come like he had his shirt off and stuff like that. Like scenes like that. Like cut that out. Awkward stuff like that. And it's just like this doesn't belong in Star Wars. It's just this. No. And the acting of when she got angry and started setting stuff on fire, it just seemed like, oh, here we go, Moody, like she's had enough, she's gonna go crazy, oh, here we go. This is not Star Wars. Star Wars is about adventure, about discovery. This is about revenge and hate and trying to kill someone. I'm not saying like there wasn't any people like trying to kill other people, but it was done because it was for like light versus dark. And this is just two sisters. Well, one of them getting angry, and to be fair, yeah, we don't know why she's angry. It could be that the Jedi have messed her around for some reason. Maybe she is a completely understandable character that we just misunderstood. Currently, kind of don't really get that feeling from her. It seems like she's been clouded in some way by someone else, and she's trying to prove herself to her master. And for some reason, it also affects her sister in some way, and the previous Jedi that. And that doesn't make any sense anyway. So if they took her sister away, why is she after the Jedi? Like, what connection? Like, I've got...
Right, hang on. Right, so she's mad at the Jedi because the Jedi started the chain of events that led to everyone being taken away from her. Now, yeah, I know she's the one who started the fire and killed everyone, but the Jedi started the chain of events. And I said, I did say that, like, the Jedi think they're good people, but they know that they started a chain of events that, yeah, they didn't intend to, but if they hadn't have arrived, that wouldn't have happened. Now, I suspect what's happened is at the final scene was May going to Osha's tree, where she likes to go and hide. Now, May was the only person at that point. I don't know if they're the only people on the planet, but she was the only person in that area. And I suspect at some point the master that she speaks to in episode 2, I think he came along. She was probably on her own for a long time, like a year or so, long enough to suffer, to fester, for hatred to grow within her. And he came along and took her in, rescued her, took her to a new place, took advantage of her, recognized her power and grew it in the wrong way. And then she used all of this hatred that she'd grown in this time and placed it all upon that single event when those 4 Jedi appeared on her planet and basically set in motion everything that has happened. So I don't think the Jedi haven't done anything to May. She perceives...
But why would he say sorry?
Right, but... Right, he said sorry because they started the chain of events that led to the fire and the death of everyone. Do you get that?
I think so.
Right, the Jedi didn't do anything to May, but what they did do is they arrived. They arrived and they spoke to the mother, and then this happened, and then that happened, then this happened, and that happened, and then the fire. That's what he's apologising for. He hasn't done anything wrong, but set a chain of events. That's what he's apologising for. He hasn't done anything to her. He's not smacked her in the head. He hasn't killed her parents. He didn't start the fire. They thought they were doing the right thing, but in doing the right thing, they accidentally, inadvertently, set something going that was bad, and that's what he's apologising for.
But she should realise, but he shouldn't be saying sorry, because he's done nothing wrong. They came to her...
She's angry. She's so angry. She was an 8-year-old child. She has no reason. She just has anger. And then she had this master who came along and he fed that fire. Do you see how this is how you get there?
But he should
There's no reason. You're looking at this with reason, but she has no reason. What she has is, my sister's been taken away, my mothers are dead, my whole coven is dead, and the Jedi are to blame. That's what she has.
He should never have said sorry, because when they arrived, they said quite openly, okay, we seem like these children have some sort of Force gifts. We're just going to assess them and tell them if they have any possibilities of becoming a Jedi. And if they say yes, they want to become a Jedi, then that's great. If they don't, that's fine. So it's not like, they that girl, like you said, she wanted to go and become a Jedi. So he was doing a good thing. He was doing a good thing. So why is he saying sorry to this girl?
Because it all went wrong.
Yeah, but it wasn't his. It was not their fault. They'd actually.
It wasn't their fault. But you can still apologise, because if your partner's feeling you're sick and you say, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way," it's not because you made her sick. You got a needle and you stabbed her with a needle full of.
I see where you're coming from.
The cold virus. It's not your fault. You can apologise to someone, even if you're not to blame.
If that was me and I was that Jedi, I would have turned around and say, "Look," I wouldn't say sorry. I'd say, "Look, your sister wanted to become a Jedi." And then let her do what she's got to do. That's what I would have said. That's what I would have said. Like, I'm not saying sorry, because her sister made the choice, and you didn't like that choice.
I see you're making a fatal flaw.
Am I? Go on.
You're forgetting this is a TV show, and TV shows need a story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Imagine if in the Fallout TV show, we suggested that instead of killing all the Vault Dwellers, they just drugged Hank McClane and took him off immediately.
Yeah.
Now, if they'd done that, or if they'd done any of the other things, there would have been so much less story for them to put into episodes.
Well, I was thinking of it as let's forget the story. I'm just thinking, like, what would he have done? You know, what I would do, and what I think he should have done. Like, of course, like, yeah, like you say, you need story, you need some sort of thing going. And that's fair enough. But me personally, I would never have apologized. I don't think that affects the story anyway.
He was right to apologize, because I think by apologizing, that is changing her. And I think that might be softening her from the grip that this master has on her.
Maybe. Okay, maybe you're right about that, yeah. We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if that makes any difference, but I set the priority to high for that. Actually, what did I do? Do I do it for Discord or Destiny? I should really
do. You one thing, is it in balance mode or performance mode? And B, like,
it's plugged in.
How old? Like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's on. If you go to battery, you might be able to put it in performance mode. But like, has the laptop got an SSD, and what CPU is it?
It's not very good. It's like an Intel Core. It's like at the time when I bought it from PC Land.
Tell me which one it is. I want to know roughly what we're talking about. Do you know how to get there? Task Manager.
I was gonna go to system. It is a Lenovo laptop. It's an Intel Premium R CPU 4415U at 2.3 gigahertz, 2 cores, 4 logical processors. Intel
Pentium
Intel Pentium
or Intel Premium.
No, Pentium.
Okay.
So it's not very fast. I knew at the time it wasn't great. I think I only paid like 300 quid for the laptop itself. And you're talking like CPU wise, you're talking maybe like a good CPU is probably 150 or 200, 250. So then you're getting a laptop. So for a good laptop, you need to spend at least 500 quid. And that's cheap as well.
Oh yeah, I get so many people asking me to recommend a laptop for £300, and I just don't. I have no recommendations. I don't actually recommend any laptop, because at the end of the day, it's not like I've tried and tested all these laptops. So I basically just say, look, get something with a Core i5 in it, get something with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and get something with 256 gig SSD, and then just as long as you got those three things,
you're fine.
Anything else is up to you. Screen size, full-size keyboard, speakers, whatever. But as long as you hit those three minimums, you can't go wrong. You can obviously get something good that is cheaper, but without testing every laptop, which isn't my job. I can't really... Yeah, it's hard to recommend something.
Yeah, it's definitely not great, but it does the job for her. Basically, she just likes it to back up stuff and do editing and stuff, so...